Okay, we're going to pick up with integrate supplier diversity. 2A3. Integrate supplier diversity with corporate diversity, supply management, and other business initiatives. Organizational strategic goals from the board of directors or the CEO to the entire enterprise. So these are the broad goals of the corporation. Goal setting across levels. Process occurs at different levels across the organization and will be viewed differently by different managers. So a supply management professional must know the difference between a strategic and an operational goal versus a tactical goal. The amount of employee input for writing goals and the level of goals difficulty, are the goals attainable, and the difference between qualitative and quantitative goals. So, well, I guess strategic goals are usually more than 5 years in length. Tactical goals are less than a year. Operational goals are somewhere in between. The amount of employee input, method of establishing goals, and how the specific goals adopted will affect the organizational morale and efficiency. So most companies will use something called MBO, or management by objective. It uses the principle of employee input into their goals to get buy-in from the employee. Goals should stretch the employee or the individual's effort, but not be unobtainable. Alignment of goals requires that corporate strategy ties directly to individual goals and to the evaluation of performance and the attainment of its goals. And one key tool for demonstrating the organization's commitment to supply diversity is to include diversity performance goals throughout the organization. Cross-functional teams. So these leverage organizational resources by utilizing the expertise of team members. Cross-functional team dynamics permit different viewpoints and perspectives to contribute to the decision-making. Cross-functional team members will support the supplier diversity plan by the following: providing input during development of short and long-range plans, supporting public relations initiatives, forming and supporting strategic alliances with diverse suppliers, and communicating the business case of supplier diversity. So we got a guy by the name of Bruce Tuckerman here, and he's got 5 phases of team building. So phase 1, you identify the team members. It's called the forming phase. Look at goals, interaction styles. Phase 2 is called the storming phase. And team members present ideas and argue and test and try to gain dominance, some of them. And then you've got phase 3, which is called the norming phase. Team members develop trust, focus on substance, agree on roles, responsibilities, and processes. Then you move to the performing phase. So this is where the team's actually functioning efficiently. And then phase 5 is adjourning. So that's Bruce Tuckerman. Here's another conflict model. Potential opposition and compatibility in stage 1, communicate, structure, personal variables. Stage 2 is cognition and personalization. So a perceived or felt conflict. Stage 3 is conflict handling, competing, collaborating, compromising, etc. Stage 4 is the overt conflict, parties' behavior, others' reaction. And then stage 5, you either get increased or decreased group performance due to the overt conflict. And here's ISM, structured resolution approach. Identify the causes of the problem, determine the criteria, generate solutions, determine feasible solutions, determine the best solution, achieve consensus. Supplier diversity councils. Establishing internal supplier diversity councils demonstrates alignment with business initiatives and engages executive leadership. So supplier diversity council may be created to do things like review progress towards meeting goals, guide strategic direction for the program, discuss customer expectations, set diversity classification criteria, provide training for supply management professionals, and act as a focal point for networking opportunities. And then you got a code of conduct, supplier code of conduct. Many organizations have these. Small and diverse businesses help drive innovation within the supply chain. And most organizations will have an employee code of conduct also. Supplier management professionals should ensure the code of conduct speaks to the employee's responsibilities for ensuring supplier diversity initiatives are being met. And ISM has developed a principles and standards as an additional guide to support any organizational policies. So that looks like this. Principles and standards of ethical supply management conduct with guidelines. And then here's your 10 standards. Recommended guidelines for maintaining positive supplier and customer relationships include the following. Develop and implement policies and procedures for business processes that are fair, unbiased, and applied consistently. Encourage prompt and fair problem resolution, avoid unreasonable demands, communicate promptly and openly, and establish a process for suppliers and customers to report known or suspected unlawful or unethical activities. And then the ISM also has these principles of sustainability and social responsibility. 11 different principles. This one was 2020, I think, is the latest. There's your principles right there. That goes into detail on each of them. Sustainability and social responsibility include a focus on supplier diversity to provide organizations an opportunity to assess their status in relation to these principles. ISM has developed guiding questions to application decisions. So this is just kind of some questions to quiz your organization on to see where you're at with sustainability. And organizations can also do an assessment of the supplier diversity efforts along with their supply base. So you can assess your supply base or you can do it in conjunction with them. So here's a model. It talks about how to do the assessment. And then this should be a template for the assessment. So here's the overview. Here's a template for human rights, diversity and inclusion. This is human rights. This is some span maps. So how to put it together there. So risk management theory. So there's really 4 major steps to risk management. Number 1 is identifying the risk. 2 is quantifying it. 3 is assigning responsibility. And 4 is risk mitigation. Identifying, you're looking at brainstorming for ideas, experience. First part of risk assessment. You're trying to find out what are the risks. Then you want to look at, to quantify it, the likelihood versus the impact. And this is the final part of the assessment. This is risk assessment on this side. Then you'll go who manage risk, how will they manage risk, and what steps can be taken to lessen the impact. So that's your theory. Here's the risk management approach. Confirm scope and current state, interview the stakeholders, identify critical business functions. That is where you come up with your identifying the risks. Conduct an impact assessment, identify major threats and vulnerabilities. How can the supplier network absorb and respond to these impacts? And then define alternatives. So this assess is really kind of quantifying the risk. And then define alternatives like risk mitigation and what can be insured against. And then develop plans for risk mitigation, define business continuity. So define and develop are kind of the assigning and risk mitigation. And then you implement. Risk management process, conducting activities that reduce, eliminate, or mitigate damage or loss to the business. So the four-step process we already covered. What are the risks and how bad are they? That's your risk assessment. Risk in the supplier diversity program should be assessed based on laws, customer contractual requirements, and organizational goals. Non-compliance in these areas can result in loss of customer business, financial penalties, and or negative public perception, which for a consumer business is a very bad thing. Benefits the supplier diversity program can bring to the organization: increased sales, positive customer and employee perception, improving local economies. Communication of the results. So you need to communicate the results of supplier diversity programs. It's a key component of integrating the program with organizational business initiatives. The quantitative benefits can be measured by things like compliance to laws, percentage of spend with diverse suppliers, number of diverse suppliers. And the qualitative benefits of supplier diversity may include things like increased sales because of supplier diversity initiatives, improved customer and employee perception. All right. So there's a 5-stage approach to risk management for risk and response planning. Which of the following is not one of the stages of the risk management approach? So these all three down here look to be loosely related to the risk management approach that they gave back here. These 5 steps. But implement readiness and maintenance processes sounds more like an operational thing on the factory floor. So I'm gonna guess you're looking for the not. So that's A, I think is the answer here. C, consensus building to reveal diversity of ideas is part of team management, not risk management. Okay. All right, it's important for the supply management professional to understand group dynamics. Bruce Tuckerman originally proposed the stages of team development in 1965. They still stand today as team concepts. Which stage of team formation does the group come together initially and get to know one another? Storming phase? No, that one's the one where there's fighting. Forming is after they've done fighting and they've gotten their stuff together. The norming phase is after storming, I'm pretty sure. And the forming phase, that sounds like the first one. D it is. Group comes together initially. All right, there are a number of questions, like 25 of them out there. Oh, we need to do the key takeaways. So 3 key takeaways for this module. Supply management professionals should include individuals from cross-functional teams, support supplier diversity program. Every supply management professional is responsible to strive for acceptance and adherence to ethical standards. Non-compliance to these areas can result in the loss of customer business, negative public perception, increased sales, positive customer and employee perception, and improving local economies are all benefits to the business case for the supplier diversity program. General statements about expected outcomes. They are targets set by management to give organization direction. General statements about expected outcomes, okay? And to assure all diversity initiatives across the organization are working together, supply management professionals should collaborate with human resources to align the programs. All right, let's go to our questions. Here are the questions. All right, so 22 questions. Let's go look at some answers here. One is delta, two is alpha, three is bravo, four is alpha, five is bravo, six is also bravo, seven is bravo, eight is delta. Oops. 9 is bravo. 10 is also bravo. 11 is delta. 12 is delta. 13 is delta. Man. 14 is delta. 15 is alpha. 16 is delta. 17 is Charlie. 18 is also Charlie. 19 is Bravo. 20 is Delta. 21 is Alpha. And 22 is Bravo. All right, that's what we got for you today.